Hello, Raptors fans, and welcome back to Raptors Report. I'm your host, Julian, and today we're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors game against the Charlotte Hornets. But before we do that, I want to delve into what has happened to the Toronto Raptors offense, and it is pretty grisly, so we're going to get into that. But before we do, I apologize for not creating an episode yesterday. I had some unexpected childcare that I had to do. One of my kids was sick, and now I'm a bit sick, so please, excuse me for my appearance and my voice and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's get to it. We're going to be talking about the Toronto Raptors offense and what's going wrong. So the Raptors, since RJ Barrett's injury, which happened 7 games ago, have the worst offense in the entire league. They have an offensive rating of 105.6, which is a full 2 points behind the next worst team over that time period, who are the Sacramento Kings. So things are not going very well for the Toronto Raptors, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Is it all RJ? Well, yes and no. RJ helped the team pace themselves with his scoring and his abilities off of the ball, but I think it's a little bit more than that. I think that the Toronto Raptors offense has been scouted, and there are some problems with the half-court offense as it is currently constructed. So, as you're well aware, the first 15 games of the season, the Toronto Raptors were on a roll. There was a 9-game winning streak where their offense was flying. They looked really good. And now things are not looking so good. And there's a couple of reasons for that, actually. So, Brandon Ingram's pinch post scoring, so his work operating at the elbow, has kind of been the bedrock for the Toronto Raptors half-court offense. That is what they use in order to create space for other people. And it was just honestly a good scoring option. Brandon Ingram was very good in that spot. But things have changed. The Raptors have been and are currently using screens in order to get Brandon Ingram the ball in that position. They're using Iverson screens where he cuts across the top of the arc, and they're also using cross screens where he comes in from underneath, and then they do a post-entry feed. And there are a couple of things that other teams are doing in order to limit him there. So the first thing is jamming him up on the screens, grabbing, pushing, sort of playing him rough when he's off of the ball, and maybe not as much scrutiny is being paid to him by the referees. And he is being harassed when he is trying to come off the screen and get to his spot. So that's number one. A lot of the time, especially in a read and react offense where things kind of flow from one thing into another, a lot of the time it's timing based. And this gives the defense some time to set up and kind of spring the trap on Brandon Ingram. So that is one element of it. So they've been haranguing him a little bit more on those screens because they know that that is kind of option 1A for the Toronto Raptors in the half court. And this is the big one. So the newest thing that other teams are exploiting is the fact that Brandon Ingram has not been making very good reads out of the elbow. So teams are taking advantage of Brandon Ingram's turnover problem and his vision in the post by sending multiple defenders to him when he catches the ball in the mid-post. And this has been really effective against him. So if you were aware, the broadcast pointed it out last night, but it bears repeating that the Hornets, whenever Brandon Ingram would catch the ball in the mid-post, would be sending 2 and even 3, sometimes even 4 defenders to close out and harass the shot of Brandon Ingram before he shot it. And this is an issue for the Raptors and for Brandon Ingram. So on his post-up, so when he uses a cross screen to come up from underneath and they give him a post-entry feed, a lot of the time the team will bring the defender off of the player who makes the post-entry feed and kind of dares the Toronto Raptors to make a 3-point shot. And I saw that last night, especially when Jamal Shead is in the game. They are basically letting Jamal Shead shoot the ball as much as the Raptors want to. So they will send, if he makes the post-entry feed, they will just send his defender to help on Brandon Ingram. And obviously, if he passes it back out, then the other team is comfortable letting Jamal Shead shoot the ball. Also, they'll send from the weak side. They will send players from underneath over top. Basically, they want to get the ball out of Brandon Ingram's hands, and they are trusting the fact that he is not able to make the really high-level reads that would give the Toronto Raptors a good scoring opportunity. And the multiple contests from different angles, one of the things that it does is that it lowers his field goal percentage. That is pretty obvious. When you have a player from behind you, ahead of you, to your right, to your left, putting their hand up, it is disorienting, it's distracting, and he has not been dealing with it very well when he shoots the ball. So the Toronto Raptors have a couple of counterpunches that they've been trying to use to limited success. So one of them is to have Brandon Ingram be the pick and roll ball handler. And they've been trying that both with Scottie Barnes, with CMB, and with Pirtle. And it hasn't been as effective as you would hope. One of the issues is that Brandon Ingram's dribble is getting picked off. So the other team, a lot of the time, will blitz the pick and roll when he has the ball. And he has not been able to make the proper reads in order to punish that type of play. His handle is getting picked off. He's throwing passes, lobs over the top, and those are getting picked off. He's turning the ball over quite a bit. Another thing that kind of compounds that is that if you want to run a pick and roll in the half court, the better option is Immanuel Quickley. Immanuel Quickley is a better pick and roll operator than Brandon Ingram is, at least, this season. Quickley has been really good using that play. So it doesn't quite make a lot of sense unless you're trying to get Brandon Ingram going to have him be the pick and roll ball handler. I think they need to find a way to make that pinch post action work again. So the solution is complicated. First of all, Ingram just needs to be better. He needs to do a better job making reads out of the post, and he needs to turn the ball over less. That is why teams are comfortable sending extra defenders to guard him there, is because he has been a very high turnover player when RJ has gone out of the game. That's just a fact. His turnovers have skyrocketed. Another thing is that the Toronto Raptors need to create more motion around Brandon Ingram to create better passing angles that are easier to see. So there's a combination of things happening here. First of all, Brandon Ingram is not recognizing when other players are open. There were a couple of moments in last night's game when he settled for a shot when, Scottie Barnes was wide open. Multiple players, especially on the weak side in the corner, were open. You make a skip pass and that player would be open, or maybe you make a pass to the perimeter and then it's a swing and then an open corner three. He needs to be better at finding and understanding where the help defense is coming from and then punishing it. He's also missed a lot of, lobs to Jakob Pirtle. Jakob Pirtle has great hands, is a good roller to the basket, and he has been missing him, especially last night. Ryan Kalkbrenner was helping off of Pirtle quite a bit. He could have easily been found a couple of times by Brandon Ingram. Didn't happen. But yeah, the Raptors need to introduce a little bit more motion off of the ball. And that's kind of where RJ was really helpful, is because he'd have these 45 cuts and backdoor cuts, and he would make himself very easy to see and oftentimes just cut right in front of Brandon Ingram, making it very difficult for him to miss that kind of pass. And the last thing is that the Toronto Raptors need to shoot the ball better as a team. So it's all well and good that if, they send extra help defenders to cut off Brandon Ingram, they are helping off of players who other team is comfortable letting them shoot the ball instead of having Brandon Ingram cook. They're trying to get the ball out of his hands, and when it gets out of his hands, the Raptors, just as a team, have not been shooting the ball well enough to punish that kind of aggressive help defense. I'm not exactly sure when RJ is going to be returning. He was listed as day to day. Now it's been a week and a bit. So it's difficult to know when he's going to be back. So they can't just rely on RJ coming back and, waving his magic wand and fixing everything that the Raptors need to do on offense. They need to come up with a solution that is a little bit more tenable in the short term. So one of the things that they need to do is that they need to introduce more motion around the ball. They also, I think, need to initiate more post feeds with players who are a threat to shoot the ball. So Immanuel Quickley has been one of the team's most consistent three-point shooters the whole season, apart from the very beginning. Teams don't want to help off of him. And if they do, he is a good shooter. So I think that if they are going to be making post-entry feeds, they need to do it more often with Immanuel Quickley and less often with Jamal Shed. If need be, you have to make that post-entry feed with, Grady Dick, because teams respect his gravity, even though his shooting has not been that great this season. Also, Scottie Barnes has been shooting the ball well. They can make those post-entry feeds that way. I don't think that they should be doing it with Jamal Shed anymore. Teams read the scouting report, they don't respect his shot, so that can't be the option. So quickly, Scottie Barnes, Grady Dick, maybe even Jacoby Walters, more of a corner three-point shooter, so that is not as tenable. So they need to find a way to make the easy help from the top less viable for teams. They also need to just cut more. They need to have players who are a threat to score on the inside cut through the space that other teams are giving them, because when you send help from a player, that player is not guarding you anymore. You can run into the paint. You need to move. You need to be more active off of the ball and cut through the space that Brandon Ingram is providing so that he can get the ball to those players. Make it easier for him. If he's not going to be able to make the high-level reads, you need to make it easier for him. And this isn't all on the team. I mean, Brandon Ingram is one of, the team's best players. He has to play like that. He needs to be able to make the reads that you would expect a player of his caliber to be able to make, and not to turn the ball over so much. So obviously pretty disappointed. Hopefully RJ Barrett is able to return soon so that the Raptors don't have to, ride the struggle bus on offense. It's really just been a slog to watch, especially last night. In any case, there was a game last night. I'm going to keep it pretty short because, I've got a headache. My nose is running. There was really only one good player in last night's game. One mediocre, maybe even two mediocre players. I'll just talk about them because everybody else was pretty bad. So first of all, Emmanuel Quickley was really good in this game. He was 11 of 22 from the field, 4 of 10 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line with 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 turnover. He had a really good game, especially shooting the ball. He's really good at using Jakob Poeltl screens in order to get open and shoot it. He was, if everybody played like he did or with the same intensity, the same shot-making ability, the Raptors would have won this game. But alas, that was not the case. I will address one thing that people are saying. It's like, well, he's not a real point guard. He's not distributing the ball, etc., etc. In my opinion, I've mentioned this before, I don't think that you need to have that type of player on your team from the guard spot. A lot of the responsibility in terms of playmaking has been shifted up, especially on this team. Scottie Barnes is a very good passer. RJ, when he's healthy, is also a good passer. Ingram, he hasn't been a good passer lately, but he does average quite a few assists, especially when, the teams aren't using the send everybody to him strategy. And Jakob Poeltl's also a willing passer, so I don't think necessarily that you need a player that is going to be a traditional point guard that's going to hook everybody else up. I think that the team can function just fine with a gunner at the one spot. And I think he's been one of the better players on the team this season. So I wouldn't hold this loss against him at all. The next mediocre player after that, probably Scottie Barnes. He had 13 points on 15 shots. He was 1 of 5 from 3, so that's not great. He had 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 4 turnovers. So turnovers have become like a big issue with this team. A lot of that is Brandon Ingram, as I mentioned before, but the team has kind of gotten a little sloppy. And I think last night they were very tired, although that's not a great excuse. They were at home. They were on a second night of a back-to-back. They're playing a team that's not that great, although they look quite good against the Toronto Raptors. And it's really unfortunate. So Scottie Barnes had probably one of his worst games of the season, and even then it wasn't that bad. Jakob Poeltl is the last guy that I'll mention here. Ryan Kalkbrenner had a better game than him, I would say, but he still did okay. He had 5 points on 2 of 5 shooting, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 1 block, 3 turnovers. And those screens were obviously really good at getting Emmanuel Quickley open. Everybody else was various shades of kind of bad. I could go into all of the players who didn't have a good night, but why don't we just cut to the final thoughts here? So there were a couple of issues here. The biggest one was that the Charlotte Hornets were getting far too many open 3-point shots. Part of the reason there is because the Raptors, I think, were very tired, and their defensive scheme requires fresh legs in order to close out because they help out a lot. They help on a lot of drives. And this, as Darko said after the game, they've played 5 games in 7 nights. That is quite a bit. Obviously, they were right at the end of that, and their defense didn't look good. They looked very sluggish all night. And, there's an excuse, or is it a reason? I think it's a bit of both. I think they should have been better in any case, but they were not getting out to shooters. They were getting held up on screens. They were not hustling. There were a lot of miscommunications that led to open shots. There was a lot of laziness on that end, so didn't look good. Con Knippel was left open way too many times. He was 5 of 9 from 3. Tijon Saloon hit a whole bunch of threes. Yeah, he was 5 of 6 from 3. He really punished the Raptors' help defense. And then Ryan Kalkbrenner is like a force in the middle. He's a huge guy, and the Raptors really didn't have anything going to the basket when he was in the game. But it was probably the worst loss of the season. I'm not going to lie. This was really tough to watch. They got blown out in their own building by a team that's under 500. And they looked miserable. Bad first half, okay third quarter, then it fell apart. Raptors play the Boston Celtics tomorrow at 3:30, so it is one of those matinee games that they never seem to win. That's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a really tough game to win. The Celtics are kind of cruising right now. They look good on both ends. They've got a superstar player in Jaylen Brown. He's been amazing this season. They've got some good role players, and they can make shots. So hopefully the Raptors are able to come out with a bit more effort, a bit more vim and vigor. They can lick their wounds and prepare for this upcoming game against the Celtics. So in any case, that is the episode. Hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. That helps the channel grow, lets the algorithm know that this is content that other Raptors fans would want to watch. And also, please join the Discord and join us on the podcast. We do it every Monday at 8:30 with myself and Steve, aka Raptor Shack. We always have a good time. We answer your questions, do all that kind of fun stuff. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.